today with Cecile Melanie.
Yes,
Did
correct.
I say it right?
Yes.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
¿Cómo ça va?
Très bien. Buenos días.
Buenos dias.
Guten Tag.
We're here to talk about the Wawa.
Yes.
And we're going to kind of break it down. I want to ask you, before I get into, who you are, how did you first hear about the Wawa?
We have a great communication between parents, and it's on WhatsApp group. And it was one of the FIPA, the French program liaison in Carver. She started sending us this on the WhatsApp. So that's why,
So you saw it on the WhatsApp.
Yes.
And for everyone who is unfamiliar with the issue, Wawa is a national gas station chain.
Mm-hmm.
And Wawa is gotten approval, which we're going to talk about. They've kind of like behind closed doors gotten approval to put up a 6-pump gas station on a piece of land that sits across the street from the entrance to Carver Elementary. This is kind of between, it's right at Ponce, between Ponce and Lejeune and US 1. And right now the traffic's nuts.
Alrighty.
So I can't even imagine what it would be like there. But it's an interesting thing because the reason nobody knew about it or was able to comment on it or get involved was the approval came as part of a settlement. And the settlement involved a long history where the county, Miami-Dade County, gave to a tax-exempt entity that piece of land. They gave it to them for $10. A piece of land that's today valued, they think about $7-8 million, right on US 1. And in return for a promise to build affordable housing. And we don't need to go into all the iterations of that, but basically that concept has now turned into another gas station at that corner. It's interesting because you're here today, but you don't have a child at Carver.
No, not yet. My child is Scarlett. She's in 3rd grade at Sunset Elementary, but she's in a French program. And most of the time, kind of almost automatically, you follow through to Carver Middle School.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's funny because my background is my daughter was kindergarten at Carver, then went to Sunset for 1st grade. And first of all, we love Carver, but we want to be back at the middle school.
Exactly.
So it's interesting how it touches on, you're a Gables resident, but you're also a Sunset parent. And I think almost without exception, the Sunset parents are hoping that the child goes back to Carver. And I bring that up for a number of reasons, just so people know who you are, but also for the reason of, I find there's so many things that are troubling about this gas station. The idea of the traffic, the fumes from the gas, the proximity to the entrance to the school, the kids running out in the street, the kids crossing the street to go buy stuff. But I also think it's really, I worry about the kids in the middle school. I worry about the kids in the middle school going over, getting fast food, doing stuff. And I kind of wanted to talk to you about it because I think that we as Sunset parents have a little bit of a unique perspective on this, because I was telling someone the other day of all the things I'm worried about at Sunset, I'm not worried about a gas station going up across the street. Right? Yeah. And it's like, you could talk about why that is, but it's like, that's a very wealthy white neighborhood. Carver's in a poor black neighborhood. And guess who gets the gas station across the street?
I think it's sad. It's like, the criteria. There's 2 Coral Gables, there's a Coral Gables on the one side of US 1 and on the other side, kind of. Not really, but it's not cut through. But and this is like an example of, we call ourselves the city beautiful. And I've been in Miami 32 years, so I know a lot of neighbors in Miami. And I moved to Coral Gables to be close to South Miami, Sunset, and Carver, and for my daughter's education, and also because I love Coral Gables. And I think it's sad that we cannot do anything better especially that this was a gift, that piece of land. That there's two other gas station right there, and I'm really concerned about traffic. There's this huge project on the other side, and it's so sad that on top of that, the main entrance of that gas station are going to be on the street where the kids get out of school, where the pedestrian walking, and this was all done without any input from the community, all the community and the parents of the school. And we're talking about a great school, I think, with 1,500 kids going there.
Right.
So it's huge, and I wish like the parents, the school, and the community who was hoping to get a community center and is getting one, but very small one, had a real input in there.
It is. I'm sorry, and I'm not being rude. I was actually I forgot to do our Facebook Live. Anyone watching, I'm just sending out the video to my followers. Anyone have any questions or comments? We would love for you to get involved. It's, as a longtime resident of the Gables, how have you found the government's interaction with the parents? Like, how have you found the reception of the parents' concerns?
Well, what I heard, because, thank God we have a group of parents that started, bringing awareness about this project, and especially from Carver, and they're fantastic, because you see so many things like in different city, and I've been in Miami Beach, and I've been in different city, and sometimes it's way too late before we hear about it, and then you're like by yourself fighting because it concerns just you or just a little residential area. And this is like we have a whole group, and they're so active, and you have different expertise. So, and it's so nice to be part of something to make it, to make the city listen to that, because I wasn't there at the first discussion, but apparently the thing that is amazing is like the parents were like totally laugh about almost, or criticize, like, what do you want, and it's too late, not even listen to.
I said that they were treated like pests, like the commissioners kind of treated
and
them.
Racist too, which is like, you go to Carver, and Miami is very diverse, and that's, I don't think that's the right place to tell people racist, and just to listen to them. And I think, I've been Coral Gables, like I work in the Coral Gables since '93, and it was no apartment at the time, no place to really for families a lot, like a restaurant and stuff. And this has improved a lot, but then now it's building, developing, and this is going crazy.
Well, so let me stop, because I want to talk to you about that.
Yes.
That's an interesting thing. So we had from the Ponce the Ponce neighbors, the craft section in the Gables, David Fournier, who is who's French, who is from France, and I think he's from Alsace-Lorraine. But
nobody is perfect.
Yeah,
I'm from the south.
You're from where?
Provence, close to Marseille. I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's about as pretty as it gets. Provence. He very much was celebrating what the Gables is as a unique part of Miami. The cafe culture, the being able to walk around, to be able to live close to the downtown area. And he, like you, kind of expressed, he's very concerned about the way of life, the what's happening. And you just raised the same issue of, it's like the things that you like about the Gables seem to be under threat through development. And I'd like to ask you, like, how I think that the Gables residents are a little, I don't want to say this in an offensive way, it's almost like there's a lack of political awareness, because you guys were kind of spoiled for a long time, if that makes sense. Like, you had a city that was well run, you had a city that everyone kind of seemed to be on the same page and was trying to make this, like, everyone kind of had the same goal, maybe I would say. And all of a sudden, it seems like you woke up, and these other residents have woken up, and they're seeing their city change, and they don't feel like that they were part of that discussion.
And I think also when you're parents, you change your priorities a little bit. It's different. Also, like I remember when I work on the Biltmore Way, and I remember like some people very concerned about what was going on with the Coral Gables High School and to the 7-Eleven. The 7-Eleven next to it was very famous to entice a bunch of side business, and
Dude,
I
I think that's
know,
side business.
yeah. Well, I heard of drugs, alcohol, everything, and if it's already something that is there, okay, you have to deal with it. But we're talking like we have two gas stations on that road on US 1, and I keep passing on, and with my daughter we're commenting, because I keep aware of what I'm involved in, and I'm like, this cannot be. And probably, and also with all the the health issue about the fume, about everything, and this cannot be like the Wawa is the best alternative in that spot that was given. And I think with the Coral Gables is a great city, it's wonderful, and that's why I choose Coral Gables to move instead of South Miami, for example, because there are more apartments available, and in a nice walking and restaurant. But I think he has to preserve that, and he has also to make like some apartment for all kind of people too, because we're building, but there is a lot of high end luxury, and then there is a lot like big leasing only, and in between there is not
Tell me
that
this.
much.
So it's I always find, so my sister lives in Cambridge in England. She married an Englishman, and so we go, a couple times a year. We try to get over to England, pre-COVID. So I'm pretty familiar with Europe. Traveled, in a lot of places. And it seems to be a uniquely American thing. Like I think that like cities have always been built on the idea of a building would have 3 bedrooms, 2-bedroom split plan, a cheaper 2-bedroom regular plan, a 1-bedroom, and studios. And the idea was to kind of have a cross section of people depending on what they could afford. And the idea being that we need the people that work, our teachers, our policemen, our firefighters, like to live within the city. And I don't know if it's a uniquely American thing. Like I always say, like I drive a lot down to the Keys. And when you're on the turnpike going south, you'll kind of pay attention. It's like there's a policeman, but it won't be a local policeman. It'll be a city of Miami Beach. It'll be a school board. They're going home because they can't afford to live in Miami. It's kind of like I heard someone the other day say that our affordable housing policy. Tommy, I don't know if you heard me say this. Our affordable housing policy is drive till you can afford it.
Yep.
And I was that really sums it up. So we're almost like flushing out the poor people, so the rich people live in, and everyone else has to commute in and do it. And it's interesting because I think about, they're so focused on going high now on Miracle Mile, for example. The solution, they want to build their way out of the problem. And they're, after we just put in, actually fact check, Tommy, how much money did we put into Miracle Mile in the
years it took?
25 million. We just put, look at your face. 25 million we just put in.
And the years going on.
Years of construction, those poor restaurants, right? 25 million. And now we're going to tear it all down and build 7-story buildings. That's what, the government is proposing. As far as the parents go, as far as the interaction with the school, I wanted to ask you kind of how there seems to be this little bit of a disconnect about what community is. An overwhelming majority of the parents involved in this are Coral Gables residents. They happen to be. But I honestly, I don't think that should matter. Like, to me, schools are such an integral part of our community that this idea of parents of children shouldn't matter. Their voices don't matter. Whether they have nowhere to park when they go to the school. Like, there seems to be this disconnect between the schools and the neighborhood. And I wanted to bring it up in kind of the Sunset context, because when I go pick up my daughter at Sunset, my wife usually picks her up. And so I'll have to go maybe once a month. And I get in that long line. Do you do that?
Well, yeah.
That line down.
I manage the hour to get in, but still.
But Schoolhouse Road. And I think about those residents that live on Schoolhouse Road who every day
Have to
have
do that.
what 300, 400, 500 cars lined up to
It
pick
is.
up kids. And I just think about it as being like we got to work better at integrating the schools into the system. I think that's one of the things we're seeing here, where some of the Coral Gables commissioners were just like, like the school board didn't help us with West Lab, so why are we going to be cooperative with them?
I think we're talking also of huge school. We're not talking about a small. It's like, since it's a 1,200 student, covers 1,500. I mean, when I talk to my family in France, and a lot of them are in teachers and in school, different school and high school, we're like, what? Elementary school or elementary and middle school, 1,500. This is a huge number, and it doesn't matter if we vote in Coral Gables or we don't vote in Coral. It affects all of us. It affects, and also it brings business to the city. I mean, we have to be smart about it. If you have a school, then you have activities after school, and then the parents are around also that area, and it really affects both sides of US 1. It's like on the Coconut Grove area, a lot of parents are coming from there, on the Coral Gables. And I mean, so, and then what is more important than the safety of our kids? How can we promote like a city is beautiful and take care of its residents, and then you don't care if it's going to be traffic jam, you don't care if it's going to be kids that are in danger because of cars going in and out of the and then going and get vapors or whatever. It's just safety. And in general, do we want that next to a school when there's so many other options, and we don't need another gas station there?
It's interesting you say that, because I think part of it is part of my reply, or part of the concern here was, I've said often about it. Well, let me jump in, because George, one of my favorite fans, makes a very important point. He says, "Can we just agree that a Wawa sub is delicious and at a great price?" And it's so funny, because when I first got the call from the Carver PTA, they didn't know that I had a connection with Carver with my daughter. And they were like, we hear you're the guy to call to help us. And I stopped them. I said, let me start with this. I love Wawa. I drive my wife crazy. When we're traveling, if there's a Wawa, I pull over. I love the subs, George. My daughter loves the chicken noodle soup. I love the fresh fruit. I love this fresh snacks. I love Wawa. This is a terrible location for a Wawa. It doesn't fit into this environment. And it's interesting, because I think my big issue is, here I am arguing with George, about, not arguing, I shouldn't say that with George, but like, we have we can disagree about whether that's a good place for a Wawa. I think that what I try to say is, but we can agree on what the process should look like. And the parents should have been involved. The school should have been notified. The school board should have been notified. And I think that is the big breakdown that results in what I think we all would agree is a suboptimal result, right? This is an amazing piece of land at an important entrance point. I mean, I honestly don't understand why the Gables did, there should be like a kick-ass entrance, the Bahamian village, celebrating, what this is. Like, let's be clear. This
heritage.
This was a triangle that was, it was like the first, it was like apartheid. I mean, this is where George Merrick put the black people, right? Almost talking about like in town. It's like, we need these black workers. The story of America. We need these black workers. And he had to put them somewhere close. And so they built across US1, the tale of two cities. They built the black part of the Coral Gables. And, to me, to take that corner and just turn it into a gas station is such a, what would you call it?
Like a waste.
Yeah, just like
it's sad. To me, it's sad like that.
You could have put a monument to the community. You could have put, a big community center, job training. I mean, I hate to say it, affordable housing, the original purpose. It's like, what do we need right now? Housing. The rest of the Gables, they're going to tear down so they can build housing. But here, we're not going to enforce a promise to build housing.
What I don't understand also, it took 17 years supposedly of proposing design And for this piece of land, for there's a very
to get
nice
a cookie cutter Wawa.
Yeah, there's a nice in the Miami Herald. There's a nice picture of a a proposal, and 17 years they can. And of course now Wawa come, and yeah, right away we say yes. And it's true. The first time I saw Wawa, it was close to Miami Airport, I think. I was going there for physical therapy at a place there, and I saw Wawa, and I thought it was so funny. A Wawa in Miami, like Wawa. But it's true. It's huge. It's nice. It's clean.
Spacious. It's like a different concept. It's like you pull in the height of the thing above you. It's like it's spacious. It's huge and roomy. And then they're going to cram it in this little wall.
And especially, I think George was mentioning that the school has to design better pickup location. But, this is an existing school, so old. We're talking about history. How can they transform when everything is building around? And we see the Grove is like upgrading to everywhere, townhouse. How can we change the pickup? Sunset is the same. I mean, you are with the situation of a school growing because there is a need for school, and it's public school. And then how can you change? You cannot increase the streets, and here you have an empty lot that it can be help not to increase the traffic, especially when nobody talks in the city, nobody mentioned the impact of traffic is going to be the huge building across the street. This is a monster building, and how many people are going to be living there?
You're talking about across from US.
Yes, I don't remember. There's a lifestyle center opening.
It's like the zero setback building right on US.
It's going to be retail. So how many people are going to be there? And it's great, like Trader Joe, they're going to open, but just across a gas station, across at this, and the city is doing that very hush, very quickly. And that's it. It's too late. Nobody can say anything. And unfortunately, until there's enough parents that voice and the media talks about, and they're afraid maybe for re-election, are they going to hear us, and I come from Miami Beach, and I saw the history of Lincoln Road, how Lincoln Road was doomed, and then Lincoln Road was a great success, and then they drove everybody away, and Miami Beach is sad now. It's really sad, South Beach. I came in the 89s, and it was like almost ghetto, some area, very dangerous, and then it grew to be luxury and catalog and model, and then it's changing again all the time. So,
but it's funny you say, because so I want to bring in the European model. Like, we're babies from an urban planning perspective, right? Our cities are 1/10 as old as the cities in Europe. And we have this bad dynamic in Miami, and I'll use South Beach as the example. Blighted is the word I would use. Blighted area. It's cheap, so people rent, right? And not to be stereotypical, but like we lived through, it was like, who came? It was like the gay crowd came in.
The students,
the European crowd
yeah.
came in, restaurateurs came in, and it became cool and chic. The regular people come, right? I moved to South Beach. I'm a regular person.
Mm-hmm.
I move, I buy an apartment. And to meet the needs of the regular people, all of a sudden on Lincoln Road, you go from having sex shops and bars and gay clubs to having
Gap, Banana, which I love my Banana Republic.
Crate and Barrel, and it changes. And the rents get so high, you turn into a mall and everyone leaves. And we saw it. Everyone went to Wynwood.
And the traffic on the bridge.
How do we break that cycle? Like how do we, we're America. We're not going to tell people what to do with their land. But how do we stop that from happening? Because I see it in the Gables right now. The Gables, what made the Gables livable. And now we're going to crowd everything out. The rents are through the roof on Miracle Mile. No one can afford to be there. And the people that are there, these stores like the AT&T store, people who can actually afford that rent, banks, they want parking. So they're going to say, tear this down, tear all of it down, and build us a mall. And what's that going to do? It's going to drive away people. You and I, it sounds a little bourgeoisie, but I don't want to go eat. I don't want to go eat at the Cheesecake Factory on Miracle Mile. That's not why I go to Miracle Mile. And that's what it's going to turn into. And somebody thinks that's a good idea.
I think it's like I moved to I moved to the living in the Gable because I used to work for many years in the Gables because I want to walk some places. That's and unfortunately with the school it's hard. I wish I could walk because I'm a walkable distance from Gables Elementary. But because we're in the French program and we're so happy about this program, that's why we went to Sunset. And it's true. I mean, we're driving in the car, and I'm used to it. I'm 32 years. I'm really American too. I like to park like.
You're Americanized. You're ready to pull your giant SUV.
No, not. But but to think that there's already so much traffic, so much congestion. I think the Gables is excellent now. Do we need another big building again, everywhere? Do we need something that is going to bring more cars, more cars, more cars? And instead of putting something, some historical thing. Even the community center was a great idea, especially that the kids could do aftercare.
Have you seen the community center?
No, they told me it's in the back of the parking.
It's like the size of this studio. It's a locked room. If you ever go by there, it's always locked. I hate to laugh because it's just like it's such a bad deal. It's interesting because I sometimes think about Miami so often. I don't know what it is about Miami. It's like we sell ourselves short. I think because like I do a lot of I do stuff in historic preservation, and I find sometimes that there's this attitude of like, oh no, I go to Europe for my history. Like this is all crap, right? This is the Coconut Grove Playhouse. Like that's not even 100 years old. Like I don't care. So tear it down. And I think there's a little bit of that attitude about everything about Miami. Mario Ariza wrote a book. We're going to have him on soon the book is about sea level rise, but it's called Disposable City. And there's a little bit of an aspect of Miami where like maybe what Miami becomes is like Las Vegas, right? You go into those hotel lobbies and it's all fake marble. And the idea is it's just to be in 5 years that all that's supposed to get torn out and redesign everything. And it seems like we have a little bit of an aspect of that, especially with the idea of the Gables. Like, so I think some people are viewing the Gables as like our last stand. This is the last, it's coming down to, this is the last kind of livable city where we take our history seriously and we're trying to maintain, not just become a mall.
Yeah, and you have a lot of family activity, and that's a big difference from South Beach where I used to live. There's a lot of family, but nothing is really done for the family. So here you have great option in school in general, and and I think it's like why being so set on putting a gas station? Why not something else? Even a restaurant. A restaurant was a great idea, or something to, if I want to make it profitable and commercial, then do something a little bit not to increase traffic. And especially then, why don't you leave access from US 1? Because I say other thing that they don't want to increase traffic, apparently, so they don't want to have access from US 1, but so the access is going to be only on the size of the school.
So my wife pointed that out too. She says, you need to discuss exactly where the entrance of the gas station will be. You will not be able to enter off US 1. You will have to enter off of Grand Avenue.
Exactly.
And those of us who have dropped kids off at Carver, I mean, it becomes unpassable. I mean, Grand Avenue twice a day becomes unpassable. And then you put that in. It's an interesting problem because I got to tell you something. I don't even understand why Wawa wants to be there. A couple of commercial brokers have reached out to me and have said just flat out, like, I try to sell stuff to Wawa all the time. This lot, like, I've had much bigger, better lots that Wawa, they're very picky. And why would they choose this lot with this weird entrance in this location to be here? Like, it doesn't make sense to people. It's so crazy. And I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember there used to be a third gas station on the south side of US 1 in Lejeune? On that side, it became the Divers Direct. I don't know what it is now.
Yes.
Across from.
Yes. Yes.
It's across from the Chevron, across the street. And I had clients that were looking at that land, and it was a big problem because it had a gas station, and it required all this soil replacement and these environmental studies, to get the tanks out, and they did all this environmental remediation to get it so they could build a building on it. And then here we are kind of taking a step backwards. Like we're taking this, this beautiful green space and we're turning it back into a gas. We're going to pump a bunch of, the tractors are there right now digging into the ground to put a bunch of underground tanks into it. Like it just seems like a step backwards.
Whenever they do traffic study, I don't know the way they do it. They do it at time and, that it's convenient, but also it's amazing, like between all the commissioner at the city of Coral Gables and, didn't talk about with the school that we are 300 feet. And bottom line, it's supposedly under 1,000 feet. You don't put any gas station from a school because of the fume and all the, health hazards. So, we are already in enough stress with the virus, with everything that is accommodated. The school is unbelievable, like the way they are functioning, with those time and the quarantine.
Is your daughter at home now?
No, she's in school. Thank God. I'm quarantined right now because I'm helping as a substitute in Sunset. And not because I want to be a full-time teacher all the time, but right now they need a lot of people. Yeah. And it's just, the resilience within the school is unbelievable. So why not appreciate that we have a great school there? And any school around any school, we try to preserve. I mean,
it's interesting you say that because we can close up on that because my daughter's at home because of it's like the third time we've been. Somebody in the class got it, so we're home till like February 8th or whatever. So I have just been blown away. The principal, Lete Vidal, the leadership, the teachers. Like I am so grateful for what the schools have done. I had an interesting thing. My wife is Cuban American, and I was having a talk one time with my father-in-law. And my father-in-law had two daughters. They never spent one day in public school. I sent them to private school from kindergarten on. And I so support our public schools. Like I'm happy to pay these taxes because we need good public education.
Exactly.
Right. I may choose not to avail myself of it, but he recognizes, like as a businessman,
yes,
how important it is to have good public schools. And I find it interesting because I think that we're all very happy. Like I find it I love that we can send our kids to these schools, Carver, Sunset, Pinecrest. I mean, there's amazing, great schools. We're at Sunset, arguably one of the best elementary schools, private or public, in Florida, right? Language program, high school degrees, and we can send our kid all the way through and they can have a high school degree from France, from Spain as part of the program. I mean, it's a really special treat. And I don't know that we as residents are being fully supportive of what that means for our future and our community. I think that we really need to think about how we make those schools, because that's our future, right? I guess the way I think about it is with my daughter is just like this is equipping her to compete. This is equipping her to live the rest of her life, right? Emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, the values, the everything, just like pumping into her so she can be a citizen that it flourishes in our society. And so I find this disconnect we have where there's just this attitude toward the schools of like they're afterthoughts, they're nuisances. These discussions are a nuisance. Who cares that there's a gas station 350 foot from a school? Who cares that breaks all of the internal processes for getting waivers and public notice? Who cares? It's too late. This kind of, I guess, the attitude is this cavalier attitude that the city, that frankly Miami-Dade Public Schools has had. I mean, they got involved and they're like, we don't want this to happen again, but they haven't really jumped in on this to be like, maybe the school board should have bought the land, right? And built an after-school program. Maybe the school, if it had been notified, would have put together something with the community for an enrichment program or done something. I just feel like there's so many, I don't know. I think as I get older, I think I get more and more frustrated with lost opportunity. You know, that this was an opportunity, I think, to build something really special. And I think the parents, you know, I had a reporter ask me the other day, like, what do the parents want to do? They want to stop the project. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, obviously there's been a lawsuit filed and that's like, on some level, that's the goal. But I'm like, that's not the goal. The goal is everyone I think agrees something should be built there.
Yes.
It's just, how do we make it the best we can make it? You know, how can we, if it's going to be a Wawa, if that's what we're stuck with, let's make it the goddamn best Wawa it can be, if that's what it comes down to. I'm not convinced that that's right, but if that is the case, let's all get on board and make it as good as we can. And the city's attitude kind of has been like, no, we don't want to hear from you.
Yeah, and just to finish, I think it's important that parents all get involved, and I'm so glad that this you know, the group of parents got together and started, you know, and I got involved, and you know, we want people to be involved. I mean, we're teaching values to our kids. We're talking about 1,500 kids, and then the one from Sunset. I mean, how many future adults? And we're showing them we don't care about the environment, we don't care about the future.
We don't
Like
care about
everybody's
traffic.
doing hybrid.
We don't care about the
car. No,
we don't care about process. We don't care.
It's like, what are we teaching them? It's like the Far West. Sorry, but you know, it's true. And so I think this is good. And you know, it's a great thing that we created GAP, the Gables Accountability Project, because I think it's good to reach awareness, and I want to do that also to teach my daughter. And you know, if we get together as a group and we maybe be heard. So thank you, David, for all you do.
No, thank you, and thank you for this cross-pollination. I think to Sunset is important because it's like everything, it touches on everybody. You know, in this case, it's like this could be seen as a Carver problem, but here we are at Sunset, and you know, hopefully in, you know, what is it,
2 years for me,
3 years, 2 years from
3
now,
years.
you know, how many years?
In 3 years, you know, she's like third grade. So,
you know, if everything goes well, your daughter will be back at Carver. Like, we're all kind of in this together, you know, to make it. And then in 10 years, your daughter's going to be, you know, paying taxes that pay for our Social Security. I mean, let's be honest. Like, we got to keep society going. We got to invest in these kids and produce productive citizens to keep this going. So I love that perspective of showing our kids that we care, that's showing our kids that you have a voice. I often talk about it as like agency. They say that we use like 10% of our brain. And I think that sometimes on a political level, we use 10% of our political agency. You know, we don't make our voices heard. We don't do it. And as discouraging as it was, because I was there and the Coral Gables Commission was definitely, you know, not wanting to hear from these parents, right? They were very rude to the parents. They were very dismissive of their concerns. And I always find that upsetting, because I know what local government is like. I deal with local government almost every day. But for the first time, somebody, you know, like a wealthy, successful Gables parent walks in there for the first time, and they're like, what is this? Like, what just happened to me? Like, they're not used to being treated like that. They're not used to being ignored, dismissed, minimized. And you can react to that one of two ways. You can either just be like, all right, like this is, I'm not welcome here and my voice isn't to be heard. Or you can do what you and the other parents have done. Like, no. This is not how this works. You know, I elected you. I pay your salary. Like, we need to have a reset here on how this whole process is going to work.
And hopefully more people will vote too, you know, and get involved in the Gables, you know.
And I think that's the last thing I would say is, dig into these candidates. You Gables residents that are watching this, you know, call the candidates, ask them what their positions are on these things. You know, Google them on Wawa, talk to them. This is a controversial issue, and they're all making statements about it. They're all talking about it, and I think that it's really important just to ask people flat out that are asking for your vote, this is what's important to me. What's your position? Exactly. And I got to tell you something. We have a good slate of candidates that are coming up. and they will tell you the truth, and they're going to tell you what they think. They're not going to shy away. So I really encourage you to dig into this, because I think one of the things that's gotten the mayor, Raul Valdez-Fowley, has often said, like, oh, no, we have a mandate. Our mandate is to tear all this down and build up. And that's because the anti-development candidates lose. He's like, the last 6 elections, the anti-development or limited development candidate has lost. There's arguments about that, right? You could say, like, well, they don't get the developer money, right? I mean, there's reasons anti-development candidates may not fare as well. But I do think that I would take Raul at his word and be like, yeah, we need to set, if we don't agree with this, let's send a mandate the other direction, right? Yeah. And it's funny talking to you and talking to other parents. You guys aren't activists. You're not anti-development people. You know, that's what, like, this isn't, sometimes when I'm doing historic things, like, people have like a bias, right? They're for preserving history, or they're anti-gentrification or whatever. This is a diverse group of people, many of whom make their living in what? Development. And they're the ones that are saying, like, this development sucks. Yeah, like, this is not a good development. So, all right. Well, with that, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
And thank you for all you do for the community, you know, and all the important issue to us. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for doing it. Tommy, thank you for your fact checking as usual. We're still upset about 25 million on Miracle Mile. The look on your face. Miami, thank you. We'll see you soon. Have a great weekend.